This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardiles, to use this as an educational material. Good day. We are the Group 3 and will report about indigenous people of the Philippines. Belief system and spirituality. The indigenous people of the Philippines exhibit a rich tapestry of belief system and spirituality deeply intertwined with their diverse cultural heritage. Ancestors worship a common thread with rituals dedicated to anitos, spirits or deities closely tied to familial lineage or natural elements. Embodied by spiritual leaders and healers, serves as a vital conduit between communities and the spiritual realm, offering guidance and performing essential ceremonies. Environmental spirits are revered as guardian of natural elements, fostering rituals that seek harmony and balance in their interactions with the environment. Indigenous rituals and ceremonies marked by dance, music, and offerings play a central role in various life events and agricultural activities. The symbiotic relationship with nature is a recurring theme, emphasizing the interconnectedness between humans and the environment. Cultural festivals serves as a vibrant expression of indigenous identity, showcasing traditional arts and rituals and facilitating the transmission of cultural knowledge across generations. Preserving and respecting this cultural diversity is crucial as efforts are made to protect the rights of indigenous communities, including the right to practice and uphold traditional belief system.
So an indigenous scripts is a writing system that has developed organically within specific culture or community, so often reflecting the unique linguistic and cultural characteristic of that group. So these scripts are typically used to write languages that have not been traditionally written with scripts like Latin or Cyrillic. So example, Baybayin. So Baybayin is one of the pre-colonial writing system used by early Filipinos. The term Baybayin comes from Tagalog root word baybay, so which means to spell. So it was widely used in Luzon and other parts of the Philippines prior to during the 16th and 17th century, before being replaced by the Latin alphabet during the period of Spanish colonization. So in the Philippines, another example of script associated with the Igorot people is the Ibaloy script. So the script also known as Alibata or Baybayin. So that script in Igorot Ibaloy was used by the Ibaloy people of the Cordillera region in the Philippines. So it is an ancient script that consists of characteristic representing syllables. Like other indigenous scripts in the Philippines, its usage has declined over time with the dominance of the Latin script. So however, efforts are being made to preserve and revitalize the scripts as part to cultural heritage of the Igorot and other indigenous communities in the Philippines. So the Igorot people collectively belong to several ethno-linguistic groups, each with their own distinct language or dialects. So some of the language spoken by the Igorot include Kankanay, Ibaloy, Ifugao, Buntok, and Isnag, among others. So these languages are part of the larger Austronesian language family and the primarily spoken in the Cordillera region of the Philippines. So while there are similarities among this language due to shared cultural and historical ties, so each language has own unique characteristic, vocabulary, and grammar. Here are examples. So from the Igorot word Daidi. So Daidi meaning is sun. So next is from Igorot word Bali. So Bali is meaning of the Bali is house, or in Tagalog bahay. So next is Kailian. So Kailian meaning is friend or companion.
Imagine a world where everyday objects are not just functional, but also tell story, hold cultural significance, and connect communities to other ancestors. This is the essence of traditional indigenous arts and crafts. Indigenous communities around the world have developed a dazzling array of artistic expressions using a rapidly available materials from their surroundings, each reflecting their unique relationship with environments. So, from the intricate basket of the Maya in Central America, adorned with geometric patterns and symbols that tell stories of the cosmos and creation myth. So, to the vibrant of the Mapuche people in South America, depicting a sense of daily life and historical events. Weaving serves not just a practical purpose, but also act of historical narrative, cultural symbols, and even spiritual expressions. These woven pieces are passed down through generations, carrying stories and traditions. So, the wooden carving is other prominent art form with the deep cultural significance of the Maori of the New Zealand. So, they reown their intricate, it's called wakairo, carving adorning meetings, houses, canoes, and other objects. These carvings depict gods and ancestors and significant events, surveys as visual narratives of their cultures and history. Similarly, the Haida people of the Pacific Northwest coast are known for their totem poles, which tell stories of their ancestors, clans, and mythology, embodying their connections to the historic or to the natural world of their ancestors. And so many traditional crafts also hold deeper symbolic meanings. Like the Maasai people of East Africa are known for their vibrant beadwork, adorning clothing and household items with intricate patterns that not only enhance their beauty but also represent social status, community affiliations of every spiritual belief. Similarly, the intricate silver jewelry of the Navajo rituals and ceremonies is each specific purpose of meaning that transcend the realms of everyday life. These practices often involve specific actions, songs, dance, and attire, creating a unique and deeply meaningful experience from participants and observers alike. Understanding these rituals and ceremonies provides a glimpse into a spiritual and social public fabric of this culture. So, for example, some rituals mark important life stages like birth, marriage, and a coming of age. This ritual serves to welcome individuals into different phases of life, seeking blessings and guiding for their journey. So the Navajo blessings way ceremonies from instant is a complex rituals performed to restore harmony and well-being to individual of community. It involves specific prayers, songs, and offering reflecting the belief in the interconnected of things. So there are other kinds of community needs. So that also the ritual might focus on specific needs such as seeking goods, harvest, healing from illness, or fostering harmony with the community and with the natural world. So, like the Hopi Rain dance, for instance, are performed to petition of spirit for life-giving rain. So, this ritual express the deep connection to indigenous community or people because it have a nature on their reliance on its bounty, reflecting their belief in responsibility to maintain a balanced relationship with environment. While the ceremonies is elaborate forming involving larger gathering, specific clothing, and intricate performance. So the powwow celebrate many indigenous people in the North America. It has a vibrant example is gathering, bringing communities together to celebrate their heritage through dance, music, and storytelling, creating a power sense of unity and culture pride. And there have other kinds of ceremonies that are similarly like Maori war dance in the Haka. So they perform that showcase strength unity, or they believe that the performance of that showcase strength unity.
My topic is pre-colonial societies. I have three examples: kinship and family. Pre-colonial societies were often organized around kinship ties, with family units forming the basic social structure. Extended families or clan played significant roles in daily life, providing support, guidance, and identity. Second, gender roles. Gender roles varied widely across different societies. In some cultures, gender roles were relatively fluid, with both men and women participating in various activities. In the others, gender roles were more rigidly defined, with specific responsibilities assigned to men and women. In pre-colonial Philippines, both men and women enjoy the same rights and privilege. Women, like men, can access the headship of families, village, and cities. Women can also ascend through nation. In some cases, some queens have ascended as role ruler superior to her consort. Additionally, children and elders were given the same respect, as children were also noted as capable of things that an elder can do if given the proper training. And when mothers or fathers were not same, as many their gods and goddesses were the same, divorce was also practiced and was highly accepted both with women and can intimate of divorce. Third is social classes. While many pre-colonial societies were relatively egalitarian, some exhibited structures with distinct social classes. These classes could be based on factors such as wealth, lineage, or occupation. Pre-colonial societies were diverse and dynamic, each with its own unique social structure, costume, and tradition shaped by geographical environment and historical factors. Why is important to study pre-colonial in the Philippines? By learning about our pre-colonial past, we can learn more about ourselves before it was perverted by the Spanish. And it also helps boost self-confidence and patriotism. It helps create our identity. Knowing your pre-colonial roots can also serve as a source inspiration for others and helps promote genealogy between different cultures. Without knowing the rich culture of our pre-colonial past, we will always feel inferior and insecure to others, and that is bad for personal growth. So please study and celebrate our pre-colonial culture and be proud of our pre-colonial heritage.
My topic is all about indigenous resistance and revolts. Indigenous resistance and revolts have been significant part of history, with indigenous people often fighting against colonial oppression, land and grabs, cultural erasure, and exploitation. Example include the Zapatista movement in Mexico, the Dakota Access Pipeline protects in the United States, and the Mapuche resistance in Chile. These movements seek to reclaim autonomy, protect ancestral lands, and preserve cultural identity in the face of ongoing challenge. Indigenous resistance and revolts have been significant throughout history, often arising from attempts to protect land, culture, and autonomy. From colonial powers of oppressive governments, examples include the Zapatista uprising in Mexico, the Dakota Access Pipeline protest in the United States, and the ongoing struggle of the indigenous people of Brazil against deforestation and land grabbing. These movements highlight the ongoing fight for justice, recognition, and self-determination for indigenous communities worldwide. So, example of indigenous in the Philippines, the indigenous people in the Cordilleras in northern Luzon are called Igorot. They belong to different ethnic groups such as Bunto, Ibaloy, Ipugao, Isni, Kalinga, Kankanay, and Tinggolan. The Gadang, Ilungot, and Ibatan are found in Cagayan Valley, Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, and Quirino. So, for nearly 2 decades, the fund has supported courageous indigenous activities in protecting their ancestral lands, cultural identities, and livelihood. We also work the group to amplify indigenous women's voice locally in the larger human rights and climate action movements. So we believe that indigenous people deserve to lead the preservation of their land, cultures, and livelihoods. And indigenous activities make an incredible impact. Here are 4 critical human rights issues where the fund support indigenous activities are creating system change.
In this part, I'll be talking about the colonial impact and cultural assimilation of indigenous history and heritage. So first, what is colonial impact and cultural assimilation? The colonial impact on indigenous history and heritage has been significant, leading to cultural assimilation and the eradication of indigenous cultures and languages. Colonization has affected indigenous peoples at multiple levels, including health, social, spiritual, economic, and cultural aspects. For many indigenous cultures, storytelling and oral tradition have been a tool of assimilation and cultural genocide. Colonialism had a devastating impact on indigenous cultures around the world. Colonial power often to assimilate indigenous peoples into their dominant cultures, destroying the traditional ways of life, including suppression of languages and religions. So the suppression of languages and religions, the indigenous people were using their indigenous language were banned and the religion practices discouraged or outlawed. Next one, forced removal from land. So from the name forced removal, the indigenous people were forcibly removed from their traditional lands, disrupting their connection to the environment and weakening their communities. Residential school. In some countries, indigenous children were taken from their families and placed in residential school where they were forbidden to speak their languages or practice their culture. So these policies resulted in a loss of cultural knowledge, identity, and self-esteem for many indigenous communities. However, indigenous people have shown remarkable resilience in preserving their culture.
Ancestral domain and land tenure system are integral components of indigenous people's identity, culture, and livelihood. This explores the significance of ancestral domains, the importance of land tenure systems, and the challenges and opportunities they present in the context of indigenous rights and conservation efforts. Ancestral domain. Ancestral domain refers to the territories traditionally inhabited or used by indigenous communities. These areas hold deep cultural, spiritual, and historical significance for indigenous peoples, representing their connection to the land and natural resources. Ancestral domain often encompass diverse ecosystems, including forests, rivers, and mountains, which indigenous people communities rely on for sustenance, livelihoods, and cultural practices. Land tenure system. Land tenure system define the legal frameworks governing land ownership, use, and transfer within a given territory. These systems vary widely across different countries and regions, ranging from customary laws and traditional governance structures to statutory recognition and formal land titling process. In many cases, indigenous people's land rights are not adequately recognized or protected under existing legal frameworks, leading to land disputes, encroachment, and marginalization. Challenge and opportunities. Challenge and opportunities. The recognition and protection of ancestral domains and indigenous land rights face numerous challenges, including competing interests for land and natural resources, weak legal enforcement mechanisms, and historical injustices. Additionally, rapid urbanization, industrial development, and climate change further exacerbate pressures on indigenous lands and territories. However, there are also opportunities for collaboration and partnership between indigenous communities, governments, and conservation organizations to promote sustainable land management practices, biodiversity conservation, and indigenous rights. In conclusion, ancestral domain and land tenure system plays a crucial role in safeguarding indigenous rights, cultural heritage, and environmental conservation efforts. Recognizing and respecting indigenous peoples' land rights is essential for promoting social justice, environmental sustainability, and inclusive development. By strengthening legal protections, fostering dialogue, and supporting community-led conservation initiatives, we can work towards a more equitable and harmonious relationship between indigenous peoples, governments, and the natural world.
Environmental stewardship and sustainability are fundamental principles deeply ingrained in many indigenous cultures and communities. Here's how the indigenous people contribute to environmental stewardship and sustainability. First is holistic relationship with nature. Indigenous culture often view the natural world as interconnected and sacred. They recognize the intrinsic value of ecosystem and importance of maintaining balance and harmony with nature. Next is tradition ecological knowledge. Indigenous people possess a wealth of traditional ecological knowledge, accumulated over generations through direct observation, experiment, and oral transmission. Next is conservation practices. Conservation practices. Indigenous communities have developed innovation conservation practices tailored to their specific environment. The cultural values this practice are often involve the protection of sacred sites and establishment of community managed reserves and the implementation of customary laws and taboos to regulate the resource use. Next is low impact lifestyle. Many indigenous culture prioritize simplicity, self-sufficient, and minimal environment impact in their daily lives. Next is cultural revitalization and resistance. Indigenous communities are actively engaged in cultural revitalization efforts aimed at preserving traditional knowledge, language, and practices by reconnecting with their cultural heritage and reclaiming control over their lands and resources. Indigenous people strengthen their capacity to protect and sustainably manage their territories for future generation. Lastly is global advocacy and collaboration. Indigenous people play a crucial role in global environmental movements, advocating for the recognition of indigenous land rights, environmental justice, and the incorporation of indigenous perspective into policy making process. Through collaboration with governments, NGOs, and international organizations.
Land disputes in the Philippines often arise due to conflicting claims between indigenous communities and government entities or corporations. Indigenous people face challenges in their land rights against powerful interests, leading to exploitation and displacement. So, lack of legal recognition and protection exacerbates the vulnerability of indigenous communities to land grabbing and resource extraction. An example of a challenge in land disputes and exploitation in the Philippines is the conflict over the central domain of the Manubo tribe in the Mindanao. The Manubo people have been fighting against the incursion of mining companies into their ancestral lands despite their legal rights under the Indigenous People Rights Act (IPRA). These companies have continued to operate, leading to environmental degradation and displacement of indigenous communities. And this dispute highlight the ongoing struggle faced by indigenous groups in protecting their land rights. Indigenous communities in the Philippines possess valuable ecological knowledge passed down through generations. This knowledge includes sustainable land management practices, biodiversity conservation methods, and traditional resources utilization techniques. So, recognizing and incorporating indigenous ecological knowledge into conservation and development policies can lead to more effective and sustainable resource management. An example of indigenous ecological knowledge in the Philippines is the traditional rice terraces of the Ifugao people in the Cordillera region. The Ifugao have been practicing terrace farming for over 2,000 years, cultivating rice in steep mountain slopes. Their intricate knowledge of soil conservation, water management, and crop diversity has enabled them to sustainably produce rice while preserving the natural environment. Despite modern agricultural techniques, the Ifugao continue to rely on their traditional ecological knowledge to maintain the integrity of the rice terraces, which are recognized as a as a World Heritage Site.